This morning says that SSNIT boss charged over $72 million scandal. His photograph is here. Mr. Ernest Thompson. NDC begs Nana to drop double salary case. The Heritage says Invincible Forces seized UNDP flat at cantonment. Contractor on site assaulted. Daily Graphic Yoko indict former SSNIT DG and 3 others. They are charged with causing financial loss. That's the story. And then here on the Daily Graphic, pay us 700 million Ghana cedis debt to deal with filth. That's ESPA telling government, sanitation people talking there. That SSNIT story is almost captured by every newspaper here. The Times, the Statesman, and several others. The Business Finder, however, says that invest efficiently to service debts, World Bank urges African leaders, and growth in credit extension positive. The Independent has a story causing financial loss. Who is to blame? Akufo-Addo or Mahama? 179 buses left to rot at the Chimota terminal. The buses are here. The green buses, the Ayalolo buses are here. My guest to do the talking, government spokesperson on infrastructure, Richard Asante-Yeboah is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing great.
Oh, by good grace. Yeah,
thanks so much for your time with us this morning. As a member of the NPP and a member of the NDC from the Tolan constituency, Seydou Fita is also here. Good morning.
Good morning, bro.
Hope you're doing great.
Yes, by His grace.
Hope your constituency is also fine.
Yes, we're just pushing.
Great. Now, let's start our conversation this morning. That's a very interesting story here. On the Daily Guide has a story. NDC begs Nana to drop a double salary case. And if you take a look at the Today newspaper, the same story is captured on page 12, where it says that Haruna begs for MPs. Now, Majority Leader Osechi Mensah-Bonsu has alleged that his compatriot, the Minority Leader, had spoken to the President to intervene in the double salary allegations. According to him, Haruna Idrisu was afraid the matter might dent the reputation of Parliament if the criminal proceedings currently underway should continue. He said that the leader, that's the Minority Leader, has spoken to the President that some intervention must be done in order to save the image of Parliament. And when asked further by the interviewer about what Haruna Idrisu wanted from the President, the Majority Leader said, yes, I can confess to this. When again asked to be more specific, Mr. Osechi Mensah-Bonsu answered that these things would dent and further inflate the mortal wound on Parliament. He cited the arrest of a member of the House some time ago for drug-related offences and said that that dented Parliament's image, and so the issue to work at that. Now, the Daily Guide story, trying to also take a quick look at that one, says that although they go about claiming that the NPP is witch hunting them politically, some big works of the NDC have been caught begging President Akufo-Addo to drop the double salary case against their members of Parliament and former ministers. So Chief Mensah-Bonsu threw the bombshell on Tuesday in the when he spoke to some media houses. That's the story. Right. Seydou, let me start the conversation with you this morning. Now, this issue is in the hands of the CID. Some members of Parliament have already appeared before the department, and investigations are ongoing. Do you think that dropping it or perhaps investigating to get to the bottom of it is the way to go? Which way do we go?
Good morning to you. Good morning to your church listeners, to my good friend Rich, and to members of the NDC, especially those in the Tolan constituency. This is an issue that I think that we all have to sit with fingers crossed, expecting the CID to come out with a good report on what has happened in the past. You see, I have read a lot of newspapers, coming out with different numbers, speculating as to who took money and how much the person took. We woke up to hear news that 25 Article 71 office holders under John Dramani Mahama government were taking double salary, and in the process, they charged the CID to investigate the matter and come out with the facts of the matter. And subsequently, the Daily Guide, which is a pro-MPP newspaper, came out to also report that 22 Article 71 office holders were responsible in taking double salaries, which completely contradicts the statement made by the government that 25 Article 71 office holders, and Daily Guide is coming with 22. So which one are we to trust? Secondly,
but Daily Guide is not government mouthpiece.
It is owned by the national chairman of the MPP, and obviously, he can't be ignorant about issues happening in government. Now,
he doesn't sit
so
he doesn't enter the news.
Yes. Who told the owners of this platform?
Richard,
Richard,
please don't.
Just be comfortable, please. Please.
Don't come in.
You
Please
see,
go on.
and
Daily Guide doesn't edit
and Daily Guide Daily Guide has failed completely to give us the full list of this Article 71 office holders who in the past has taken double salaries from the controller. And you see, the government, when there's a government in power, MPs takes their allowances from Parliament, and then as ministers, they take their salaries from controller or an account, and their salaries are determined by a presidential emoluments committee that is supposed to be set up by the president. And this has been a practice since 1993. And when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was in power, they set up the committee, and the committee determined and finalized its work as to how much a minister or Article 71 office holder should take, which ended on November 2016, a month to the general elections. So after the elections, the committee realized that some of the Article 71 office holders were overpaid. Overpaying us in the sense of, right, if you are an Article 71 office holder, and I am one, and they gave you 200 Ghana cedis, that's an example, and they pay me 500. It means I am overpaid. I am paid more than you. But when the committee that the emolument committee came out with their report or their finality as to how much Article 71 office holders should take, they realized that we're all supposed to be taking 500 Ghana cedis each. But then I was paid 500 earlier, but you were paid 200. So the government stand to owe you your 300 Ghana cedis arrears. So the government have to make up the 300 Ghana cedis and pay you up. So there was nobody anywhere who took more than the desired amount that the emoluments committee brought out later.
Is it the case that so, some people who have been mentioned are reported to have conceded that they indeed took double salary, and that some were told even had double accounts for the two salaries as MPs and ministers? Is this something that has come to the attention of the minority?
I haven't heard any former minister admitting that he has received double salaries from different accounts. I've not heard that. This is new to me, and we are yet to see evidence of that showing. And this is not the first time. And when President Mills came in 2009, he formed the Chinirihisi Committee, you remember? And they were to work on the emoluments of Article 71 office holders. And it was later realized that appointees under former President Kufuor also had that anomalies in their allowances. And those who were owed by the government were topped up. So those who took the exact amount of money they were supposed to take, they had to go with it. So the recommendation is that governments who come in quickly have to set up these committees to work on the allowances of Article 71 office holders before we come up with all this, you know.
If you say that you have not heard about or seen or evidence of agreeing that some took double salaries, why would the minority leader then ask the president to intervene for what?
You are talking about a statement coming from the majority leader.
Okay.
Obviously, you don't expect him to come out and say that, I mean, the minority leaders have not taken anything from the government. Remember, there has been an issue on the table concerning this agreement that is signed by government between the US and our government. And the minority has been so vociferous and strong on those issues and to cow them or to intimidate them. These are the issues they have to bring on board to make sure they push them back to their seats. I mean, why should we take something that is coming from Osechi Mensah Bonsu as coming from the angels? Let's wait and listen to the minority leader too, because he's also in the country. And I am sure if journalists reach out to him, he'll be able to state his position. But if not until then, we can't take what Osechi Mensah Bonsu is bringing out for us to consume.
I'm grateful, Seydou. Now, Richard, should the president step in this, as we're being told by the majority leader? That the minority that said the president should intervene?
Thank you very much, Bright. I think good morning to your team and your amazing viewers out there. I don't think the president of the republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, or any politician for that matter, should step in this and stall the process. I think we need to understand that the only way we can curb crime and also protect the public space is to allow independent bodies to do their investigation. And I think that we ought to allow the police CID to go ahead and do their investigation. Because you see, over the period, we've had all manner of utterances, particularly from our brothers in the NDC, lambasting the CID and also talking down to these hard-working men and women within the uniform. And I think that we need to desist from these things. I remember when Mr. Kokoido, who was arrested and freed by the police administration in the course of the investigation of his utterances and his ugly outburst, he had the opportunity to say that the police did their job professionally. This is Mr. Kokoido who is speaking. And I want to congratulate them, the CID boss, DCOP, Mamitiwa, and her people. At least Ghana is working again. This is a telling comment from the Deputy General Secretary of NDC, giving you an impression that indeed we have a professional police force. So we need to allow them to go ahead and do the investigation. The police cannot equally sit in there and say, once they are in the investigation, we are throwing you into jail. They'll process you before court if you are found culpable. So we need to allow that process to go on. Now back to your question. Should the president step in? And I said no. If we are going to entertain that, then if somebody goes to steal a plantain, the president would have to be compelled to step in. If somebody goes to steal goat, the president would have to go and step in. Then how do you control crime? We ought not to allow that to happen. These people, it is an allegation. And indeed, there are evidence to some of the things that we are talking about. You rightly mentioned one information to this, my brother, that people have separate accounts. Indeed, it has come to the realization.
Yeah,
of course.
Except you can confirm that.
And I'm also aware that people even had different signatures to the various accounts.
So you are aware you have that.
Of course. And so it tells you that indeed people were up to some level of mischief. Because why do you have separate accounts for MP salary and that for your salary as a Minister of State? When the Constitution clearly states that once you're a minister, you stick to that. If you're a member of parliament, you stick to that. You see, what usually happens is that, and I remember Honorable Osechi Mensah Bonsu gave you an information as to what happened during his tenure as a minister during the President Kufuor's era. When the party hesitated, when in the course of the President Kufuor's era, he realized that he was being paid from these two accounts. So he wrote a letter to them that, you know what, please stop this payment because I'm not entitled to it. Let me stick to this. People have taken this over the years. And now a new government is in and investigations are unfolding. And now they are throwing all manner of tantrums to the Ghanaian populace. And that is one of the things that we need to stop. I tell you, as far back as 1996, as we speak, there are members of parliament from 1996 parliament who are in court, remember, still fighting for their ex gratia. So members of parliament can fight for their ex gratia, they will fight for their entitlement. So how come if they overpaid, the good people of this country cannot demand that same ought to be returned to the state coffers? We are crying for roads, we are crying for schools, we are crying for a good number of infrastructures across the country, water and all those things. So if these monies are available to the state, I'm sure some of these things, government can meet its obligation to the people. So I'm telling you that government ought to do everything humanly possible to make sure that we retrieve these monies. And that ought to be done. My brother, there's another aspect that we need to understand. When you have separate accounts and money being paid into those accounts, and you go out there monthly to cash these monies, you do not pinch yourself, question yourself, am I entitled to this? Because any funds that come from the government, reasons for same is indicated. you'll be told this is a salary. So when in your statement you are recording two different separate salaries, and you are signing with two different signatures, and you have separate accounts, it didn't occur to you that you are robbing the state.
With some argument that they were not paid salaries, but they were paid on account, would it not counter what you're...
No. When you receive a statement, it will be indicated as a salary. See, the reason when you talk about being paid on account means that at the period you are being paid those salaries, the actuals is unknown. Exactly. So in the run up, but if there are different set of accounts where one amount is coming from Parliament and one is coming from the executive chest, you should know that indeed there's something wrong, because the point is that the constitution mandates every government to appoint majority of its ministers from Parliament. So it stands to reason that at every given time, the chunk of our ministers will be coming from Parliament. So if we are living in that scenario, and you are a member of Parliament, and you know that the parliamentary service has its own arrangement through which people are paid, and you are receiving salary from Parliament, and you double as a minister, and you are also receiving salary from the government, you ought to stop one of them. You don't go on and receive them, and when you are being questioned, you go about trying to lambast the police administration, raining insults and insinuations on people with hard-won reputations, and trying to lambast them. You ought not to do that.
Let's wrap up on this one.
Let me just quickly. Does this force belief from my brother that once an individual entrepreneur has shares in a media outlet, they control the information flow? I tell you, no. As you speak, we have Mr. Atua or the Ahoy Brothers having shares in a lot of media outlets in the country. Do they control what comes out of that? Well, particularly Radio God and those days.
I'm not too sure.
Do you remember what happened? You know, Mr. Kwabena of the former finance minister and the NDC. He controls a good number of media outlets. Does he control the information flow from that place? Or for some of all these NDC people who have media outlets. So let's discuss the issues and bring out the truth, rather than trying to muddy the waters and link people to when people are doing their work professionally. Right? Don't you do a professional work here? Let me ask you. Are you being controlled by your honest?
Let me ask you this. Now, some of us will argue that this is simply a case of employer-employee issues, and that if things have gone wrong in the payment of these, it could have been resolved through the employer writing to these persons. Is that a legitimate thing?
When it is established that individuals have gone ahead to open different separate accounts and taking these monies, when it's established that people use two different signatures for the same one person, it means that the person purpose in their hearts.
Okay.
And there's a conscious effort and a deliberate attempt to dupe the state. And that's a fact. Okay. If those things are established, and we are even hearing that there are others who took even to double ex gratia. He took ex gratia as a member of Parliament and ex gratia as a Minister of State. You can't do this to the state.
Okay, I'm grateful, Richard. Quickly come in, let's move on.
Let me come in here. You see, my good friend is confusing the whole issue. First of all, members of Parliament are paid by parliamentary services.
I think he alluded to that.
And then,
so no, he didn't. Confused when I mentioned that.
Oh, please.
You have been told.
Let me land.
Okay,
please let me land.
Allow
me to land. I was just quiet when you were talking. And two, ministers take their allowances from the office of the president. I mean, which accounts is he talking about? You were trying to put him on the right line. And he was just trying to throw that in the eyes of people.
There were reports that some people had opened two
it is not true.
Accounts.
It is not true.
The monies are not paid.
It is not true.
They are paid into accounts.
Please. People are not opening two accounts to receive monies from the government. That is not true.
So you
must admit to that. I mean, why? Do you have any evidence to that effect? You don't just sit and throw that into the eyes of the people. And secondly, with the issue of the majority leader, you see, leaders of Parliament have the privilege to meet the president at any time. And you know this for a fact.
Right.
The majority leader today, when he was minority leader under John Dramani Mahama government, he came out on Joy News yesterday to state that severally he has met the former president John Dramani Mahama. An issue that they discussed remained between the two of them and forever. Okay, And he alluded to the fact that the minority leader, by convention, has also met President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. But he cannot say as to whether they discussed the issues of double salaries or what have you. And so the media that came out to throw the stories out that the majority leader said that the minority leader came to beg on behalf of the minority.
Exactly what he said.
Please wait. Please wait. You see, these are the same people who came out and said 25 Article 71 office holders took double salaries and later came with 22. Which credibility do you have to push us to
link media reportage to that of government officials?
We are discussing.
What's the newspapers come out with their headlines and say whatever they want.
And these are people who, for instance, we have had, evidence of current ministers who have taken double allowances, and we have the full list of 67 of them. So and I challenge you, we have the names. We have the names.
Petition the powers that be.
If the opportunity is offered, I'll mention the names from 1 to 67. I want you to mention here, I challenge you, to mention the 25 Article 71 holders who took double salaries.
But their names have been published.
Furthermore, where? Show me us.
Well,
you don't just do propaganda with any issue.
Furthermore, but we are aware some have reported to the CID. Okay, quickly.
The CID again came out to drop 18 names, not only to 18 out of the 25 lists they brought out, and stated that they were mistakes. I mean, come on. We can't be doing this to ourselves. We have serious issues that the government has committed. I mean, these mistakes of signing a deal with the United States of America. These are issues we should be discussing. You don't come to confuse people by reports that you have no evidence about.
I'm grateful.
I mean, you have no evidence.
Let's move on to one other issue, quite one to deal with. This story broke out yesterday. Daily Graphic said Yoko indicts former SSNIT DG, 3 others charged with causing financial loss to the state. Now, the story is suggesting by the Daily Graphic says that Yoko has charged 4 persons, including a former DG of SSNIT, Mr. Ernest Thompson, for willfully causing financial loss to the state. They are said to have questions to answer in connection with an information technology project, the operational business suit, which cost the SSNIT $72 million. It mentions others as Mrs. Juliet Hassana Kramer, Chief Executive Officer of Perfect Business Solutions System, a private IT firm, Mr. John Hagan Mensah, a former OBS project manager of SSNIT, and Mr. Kaliba Faglo, a former general manager in charge of MIS at SSNIT. The board chair of SSNIT read a report sent to SSNIT by Yoko on the latest investigations into the OBS project. Meanwhile, Mr. Thompson has denied knowledge of any audit report indicting him and 3 others for causing financial loss to the state. According to him, neither he nor his lawyer was aware of the charges being leveled against him. Richard, this is where we are. This story was in the media yesterday. Dr. Addo and his team did the announcement. We're getting somewhere with the SSNIT issue.
I think so, and I think kudos to the media for raising questions every now and then regarding this particular matter and waking the nation up on this subject matter. Remember, these issues broke up a couple of months ago, and it was the desire of most Ghanaians to see this come into a reasonable fruition where we can know the outcome so that these people would have their day in court. Because indeed, this remains an investigative report, and they are doing the needful by processing them before the court, so at least they can also have the opportunity to answer to the various counts that will be leveled against them. And we need to understand and appreciate that the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has shown clearly to the good people of this country that, you know what, he's not going to countenance the usual system of plain thievery. When it happens, then we call it corruption. We try to beautify it when people steal money from the state, when people milk from the state, when people have turned themselves into money-sucking vampires and literally running the state coffers empty. And when it occurs, we try to tag with a fanciful name and call them, these are corrupt officials. Beyond that, these are plain thievery. And I pray that people ought to be given the needed platform and the best platform, that is the court, to answer questions to that. And I do believe in the justices, and I believe in the courts, and I believe in our legal regime, and I believe that these individuals, those who are culpable, will be dealt with according to law. Because, my brother, the monies that we are talking about, at first we are looking in somewhere in the ranges of 77 million cedis or dollars thereabout. Now we are being told that it's hovering around 145 million. That's a staggering amount. We know the number of boreholes this could provide for our brothers up north. We know the number of factories that we could put up if these monies are available. We know the number of hospitals that we can construct and the number of pregnant women we can save. We know the number of potholes and manholes that we have on certain parts of our country and roads that we can fill up. We know the number of housing infrastructure we can provide for security and the general public, the street lighting system, and all the things that we continue to cry and ask for government to provide same. And I do believe that it is time for us to make politicians and civil servants or any individual or even private individual who is caught in this web accountable to the state, because the next thing, the state ought to be supreme. Because at the end of the day, like I cited an example, if somebody is caught stealing plantain from a farm or even a maize, we see the processes through which individuals are rushed through and they are thrown into jail. But when politician goes ahead and do same, and we have all manner of feet-dragging attitude from a politician to trying to prosecute them. This is a president who has shown clearness of indication that he's ready to fight this. One thing that is amazing for me and is quite refreshing is the fact that I've been in other venues and other platforms for my brothers and others who think that even beyond the state institution, regular state institution that we've known over the period, they can equally go to the new institution and the new kid on the block who's been tasked to fight corruption across the divide. That is the special prosecutor. Okay. So if you think even in the kind of administration you have issues, you can petition him. And some of us have the strongest of belief in Mr. Martin Amido and his team, that they will do the needful. And I believe that Attorney General, Madam Gloria Akufu, my brother Odami and Kanka and Joseph, all these amazing lawyers will be out there and they'll do, then the other state prosecutors will do the needful and make sure that people are arraigned before the court. So the investigative bodies, we're also encouraging them to fast track every process, because the point is that the moment people start losing hope in the Ghanaian, in the state institution, losing hope in the police administration and politicians, even paying taxes become an issue.
Even before you wrap up, should it be worrying that Mr. Ernest Thompson is saying that neither he nor his lawyer is aware of any audit report indicting him, as told by the Daily Graphic?
The beauty of democracy is that if you think you are not aware of anything, you can write and solicit for same. You can be given same copies. I mean, sometimes I know a lot of people who deny blatantly in public, when indeed they've known all the process over the period. How long haven't we known that there was investigation in this Senate debacle? We've known it, right? You are outsider. As a journalist, you've known over the period that there has been investigation. There were counter accusation and accusation all back and front. It tells you that this government will not allow anybody take this nation to ransom.
I'm grateful.
People will not be allowed to work with the public funds without being asked to account. And this is what is going to happen. And I trust the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the team of ministers that he's appointed, and the Vice President, the Economic Minister, to also help control some of these things. I'm grateful,
Richard. Sedu, so finally, the report is out. The Yoko says that the DJ and 3 others will need to answer some questions. Perhaps it would take us to understanding what actually went into how much we paid for this software.
I think that with this issue, which is going under investigation, I expect that as responsible citizens, we have to wait for the court to prosecute someone before we call such a person a criminal. I am sad that up-and-coming politicians like us can sit on national television and begin calling people thieves when the courts are yet to prosecute those people. And in fact, that has been the music of the NPP, to use the media, to use social media to prosecute people when they are yet to be prosecuted by the courts of the country. I mean, when I read this news that Thompson and 4 others charged, I was laughing. Yoko doesn't have the authority to charge anyone for wrongdoing. They have no power. It is an investigative body. Let's learn about it. It has no power. to charge anyone.
According to who?
Oh, go and read. We have vision and mission statements of organizations that we have in this country. Go and read.
You'll finish.
And you would know. They have no power to charge anyone. Theirs is to investigate on matters and forward it to prosecutorial powers that be. To prosecute people.
So they cannot prefer charges against
They can't prefer charges. And people are consuming this. And you see, hypocritically, he mentioned about, matters that we come to defend and monies that could have been used to dig boreholes for the people in the northern region. The boss stolen monies under their government could have been used to build boreholes in Tolong constituency.
But you just...
The Maslock, right, he mentioned about boreholes.
You just
the
said
Maslock,
you're just referring to a stolen money. That is an allegation.
You see,
no, Sedu, it is an allegation.
They came out...
You just told us that people are pronounced guilty by the media, okay? And you just did say that it is stolen money. In fact, it is an allegation, and it is not. I'm drawing your attention to it.
Can I continue?
Yeah, but I'm drawing your attention to it.
I take it
that
from you.
You don't need to. Yes.
I take it from you.
Right.
I take it from you. The alleged stolen money at Bost
all right, you can go ahead.
could have been used to construct boreholes in Tolong constituency. The alleged Maslock money, stolen money, could have been used to dig boreholes in Nyankpala, in my constituency. The alleged Metro Mass money, that is stolen even 2-3 days ago, where one Lawal was going to be bribed with 40,000 Ghana cedis, could have been used to construct boreholes in Jizagunda in the Tolong constituency. The 50 million money they used and went to their Congress, it could have been used to construct boreholes. You can't sit down and just pick and choose one to say that if this money was there, they could have used it for this. Look, let's wait for Ernest Sampson is not an ignorant person. This is somebody who has been an administrator with long-standing experience. When issues like this come out, the bodies are there, the courts are there, they will invite him to the court. IOCO has presented their report. And I think that it is on which basis that the board yesterday came out to hold a press conference. They will forward it to court, and the court will do the needful. If the man is wrong, then they go ahead and prosecute him. If he has done nothing wrong, then the NPP will be shamed again. You see, when they were coming, and indeed, when you read the paper, they talked about causing financial loss to the states and not corruption. And Bright, you know clearly, there's a clear distinction between causing financial loss to the state and corruption. You can't bundle all and come out and say some people were stealing money and they could have used it to dig boreholes for which other people. Please, let's be honest with ourselves and realize that, look, this government is failing and they are trying to use all manner of issues to cover up their face for the failure. And look, come 2020, that is when they will learn a bitter lesson and understand that you can only use propaganda to come to power, but you can't use it to government people.
You do not think that the IOCO as a state institution can go into an investigation and recommend certain charges against the persons?
You can recommend, but you can't charge. Right? You know the distinction between recommendation of charges and charging people. Okay. Somebody have to take the responsibility of charging, just like in the courts. The lawyers will make their cases, and the judges will charge them. And he talked about the issue of opportunity availing itself to us for us to send petitions to the special prosecutor. Someone who does not even have an office.
Oh, sure.
But Martin Amidu came out and said his office is not yet finished. And when we're talking about office, it's not about tables and chairs. Okay. Right? It's about the lawyers. The special prosecutor office, he's not going to run it all alone. He's going to run the office with lawyers. He's not going to work there alone. And he's going to work with secretaries. And indeed, the man is using his own private vehicle currently to run the office.
All right.
Somebody who doesn't even have a comfortable place to sit and read even documents. Richard, you're talking about an opportunity given to us to send petitions to him.
I'm grateful. Let's elevate the debate. I think this is, these are just tantrums that we need to throw away to the dustbin. It is not true that Mr. Amidu has no office. Do you understand me? It's not true.
He came out to
Mr. Amidu has had...
He himself said his office is not ready.
He said it. I am not saying it.
It's different from not... That was when? It's different from... It's different
has he come
from...
Back to say has he come back to say it is ready?
Richard speaks is government spokesperson on infrastructure, so maybe he's aware that today...
This man said... This man who talked about the factory in central region where there's no brick, he said they were building it. You want me to trust him? It's funny.
I think
Richard, please...
let's elevate the debate. But the point is that Mr. Amedu did not say that he did not have an office. What he said was that he wasn't ready because they were finishing the place up for him and his team. They were equally making sure that all the other members that he was going to work with are together. It doesn't, when people say my office is not ready, it doesn't mean that there's no office structure and all those things.
All right.
They talk about Mr. Amidu using his own car. Mr. Amidu has been somebody, he is somebody that you can call a true socialist. Not these champagne popping socialists that we have within the NDC, who all love themselves and more than the populace. Let me tell you,
Richard,
when you have known him, he doesn't, you see, the man cares about the work and cares about the country more than the largesse that people are now getting double pay and stealing.
So
why is he complaining? We are complaining.
In effect, he'll be prepared to work with his own car.
You see, what I'm telling you is that he has never complained about that fact that he's using his own car.
Brett, you heard it. You are a journalist. You heard it.
Let's move on. Gentlemen, I am grateful. Let's wrap up on this one. The statesman says Invincible Forces seize UNDP flat at cantonment. Contractor on site assaulted. The story says that some national security operatives, well-built men believed to be members of the infamous Invincible Forces of the NPP, have forcibly taken over the UN Development Program flats at cantonment after allegedly abusing and assaulting the contractor of the redevelopment project. We're told that the group was led by 2 national security operatives who have been occupying the flat with the explanation that their party is in power. Redevelopment works have thus been brought to an abrupt end. The contractor of the project is all alleged to have been physically assaulted by the 2 groups, bringing the redevelopment project to a total halt. A visit to the facility saw some artisans who allegedly broke into the site with the aid of the alleged national security operatives, reconstructing portions of the flats. That's a story. It's not too clear as to what has happened. But Richard, I don't know if you, since you speak on infrastructure, you have any further detail on this issue.
I think, Bright, there's one attitude that I've taken over the period, that when it comes to people misconducting themselves and going out there to do things unlawfully, that is to say, if this reportage is true.
Right.
Which paper is it coming from?
Heritage.
Heritage.
You doubt some newspapers?
No, I want to know, so at least when I'm
just
quoting,
want to know. Okay.
Also it appeared in this particular paper.
Right.
I mean, if assuming without admitting this is true, I want us to deal with crime as crime.
Right.
Without necessarily tagging it with groups and all those kind of things. Because what it is that when you continue to promote this kind of reportage, a time will come, armed robbers will be coming to our homes and they'll be wearing either NDC t-shirt or MPP t-shirt. So that when issues about the arrest occurs, we'll have the general secretaries of possibly both parties coming in to defend them. Let's deal with individuals who go out there to misconduct themselves or go about misbehaving. I do not have full details about this alleged attack or assault of whatever it is, or takeover of this particular structure as being put forward by Delhi Heritage. And I think that we need to I will solicit for more information on this. Beyond that, what I want to understand and appreciate is that I heard an aspect of it that says that there was BNI or national security individuals involved.
Yeah.
So how do you...
In fact, their names are even in the story.
So how do you...
they mentioned 2 of them, Napoleon and Jude Banahene.
How do you put the 2 together? That, is it a national security operative? Is it that because these individuals might be national security operative and because they are well-built, somebody assumed that because any well-built person in T-shirt, and you can call them any kind of force, invisible force, or that might be the whatever group maybe in the NDC or anything. Right. Is it that we need to do? Is it that these are individuals who are conducting a lawful operation and they are being mandated by law to go about doing whatever it is that they are doing, and you do not have the full details? I'm saying these things are sketchy. They're believed to be. I'm not sure that they have invincible for their uniform. I'm not sure that any media person could sit down and say, ABCD people will belong to Invincible Force. I mean, within the party, these few individuals who have mad affairs of the party security, they are not individuals who go about misconducting themselves and doing things all over like that. But I would call for the needed investigation in this matter so that we can know the truth. Because at the end of the day, sometimes you see some media men can be very mischievous and carve out stories and put things out there just to denigrate the current administration, the party, and also drag people who have no knowledge about it. A couple of years ago, I think a year ago, about 4 people were arrested in Koforidia, and the report we heard was that they were invincible forces who had gone to some schools to misconduct themselves. When they were arrested, not knowing that there were 2 friends who had issues with a teacher who was taking a facility or from there alone, and payment had become an issue. So they went to the school to confront the person. And when these are not party people, they are not connected to MPP, but because they are well-built individuals and they went out there and misconducted themselves, people tagged them like that. So we need to look at that. There was some issue where people went and took bicycles from a state institution, I think NADMO to be precise. I think bicycle or mattresses and something like that, up north. And when these individuals were first arrested, they were talking about they being invisible forces. Later on, upon a further investigation, they realized that they were former workers of the institution, and they claimed that they did not get extra gratia. So they went back to take things, believing that they are entitled to the same. So we need to look at all these things. If indeed they are individuals who went and did something bad, let's allow the laws to deal with them. And that's what I'll push for, regardless of which political divide the individual belongs. If you're an MPP person, you need to know the laws of the land and conduct yourself pretty well. If you're an NDC person, know the laws of the land and conduct yourself well. Because the point is that even if you're an NDC person and you go to NDC office and go and destroy a property belonging to the NDC, it is not for you, and it's criminal offense, and all those things you have to you'll be dealt with according to law. Remember Sanja Nanja's constituency, when NDC individuals were angry, they banned party stuff and all those things and destroyed party building, and we went to individual assembly members' house and literally burnt his house and all those things. Those things are all criminal things that we ought to look at. I remember when my good friend, Honorable Henry Dusu, before he was called on or appointed to join the ministers of President Mahama, some individuals you believe to be his friends or associates went out there, burned NDC placards, billboards, destroying NDC offices and all those things. Upon further interrogation, the call was that because Harry Naidusa has not been appointed, you cannot do that. You need to understand that this is a country of laws. So anybody who goes out there to do anything bad, the laws of the land would have to do it.
I'm grateful, Richard. Sedu, please come in there.
Right. There's a saying that if you create a monster and the monster finish eating your enemies, it will come back to eat you. Okay? I am happy you mentioned names of those who went to attack the UNDP office. Honorable Kennedy Ajapong, who is a member of their party and a member of parliament, came out to make a statement that these invincible forces are part and parcel of the MPP, and it is an association. 3 months ago, they held a meeting in Tamale, and they made pronouncements that they can go to any government office or any office in this country, cause mayhem and walk away free, and nothing can happen to them. That they have the backing from the presidency.
What are you saying?
That's what they said.
That was what they said. Invincible forces in Tamale. In Tamale. And Kennedy Ajapong came out and said that if anybody make a mistake and arrest them, he's going to take the person to the cleaners. This is what Kennedy Ajapong said. Please, can you allow me? Can you allow me?
Elevate the discussion. This is a public people are more intelligent of us.
You are not the one to tell me that.
And let's
you are not the
debate.
Right. Be comfortable. Richard, try to be comfortable. I mean, be responsible. You are speaking for the government, so be responsible. Right. This is a group of people who immediately the MPP was declared winners. They started burning toll booths across the country. When they went to pick the toll booths from the responsible authorities and they faced resistance, they burnt down the toll booths. They attacked a senior police officer in front of the Flagstaff House, at which moment the president and the vice president were in office. Nothing happened to any one of them. They went to Kumasi, Ashanti region, and dragged the regional security coordinator down the stairs. When these young men were arrested and sent to court, they went and attacked the court, chased away the judge and lawyers in the court. Later, they were made to pay a paltry 20,000 cedis.
That's the
and
law.
Walk freely.
But that's the law.
And walk freely. And when the president was confronted with this issue, he said that the young men are yet to get jobs. And if they get jobs, all these things will stop. Which jobs are you going to... Please. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, how many percent would we have in Ghana? Please, let me continue. Please. Please. Can you just respect yourself? I beg you. Yesterday, please. Yesterday, Sammy Crab came out yesterday to make a statement to this fact and said that if these young men are allowed to continue with this act, Ghana one day we can't sleep in our rooms. This was how Boko Haram was formed. The MPP must put these guys on check. UNDP office is not a political office. It is not a minister's office. You see,
it's not UNDP office. It's just flats that I think they used to serve.
But it is not for any government appointee.
No, it's not.
You know, you can't continue seizing, accommodations and offices just like that, and the government is doing nothing about it. Of recent times, you saw the way armed robbery cases were on the rise. It has to take people with voices to come out and talk before the police could act. Because if you arrest one person and the person tends to be an invisible forces member, they are going to allow them to walk freely on the streets of the country. Because they were used from the time of opposition to the time they came into government. The president have a lot of work to do when it comes to these invincible forces. Or else, one day if people cannot contain them, they will also take ammunition to fight them. And that will not augur well for this country.
Okay. Johnny is here. Johnny, good morning once again.
Thank you very much, Bright. TV3 channel is the best among all due to their review of wonderful and pleasant music videos. Thank you very much. SSNIT saga. People living in mansions and riding magnificent cars only to realize they are fraudsters in suits. Ablade, Fiekuma Zongo in Takrade. Senior Bright, tell Nana Addo that we don't eat GDP, so you should stop lying to Ghanaians with the GDP stories. People cannot buy common food. Then MPP is talking about GDP. Osman Burkison in Tabale. Mr. Host, the current manager, board chair, and all the board members should make their salaries and allowances public, because we, the SSNIT contributors, don't want to hear any explanation about our money chop again. And good morning. The MPP government has nothing to offer Ghanaians. They promised nurses by March ending, their financial clearance will be out. As I text you now, no financial clearance for nurses. Kelly. A.U. Farouk in Tamale says, good morning. The MMT bus saga malfeasance is a clear indication that the super incompetent government appointed corrupt officials to mine various institutions. This malfeasance should be treated as such by the special prosecutor, John Martin Amidu. Ghana First Demo, Tamale loading, 21st of this month, you say. And please, can you ask Ghana Immigration Service about when they'll come out with the details of the 84,000 vouchers they sold to Ghanaian citizens to get employed? John from Cape Coast. And maybe finally, being a member of parliament is a position with pay. Being a cabinet minister is a position with pay. So if the member of parliament is appointed as a minister of state, do you expect a parliamentarian minister to receive salary as parliamentarian? Akufo-Addo-led government is a joke. This thing is nothing new in Ghana governance. Currently, his parliamentarian ministers are in the same category. What witch-hunting exercise? If you want to stop this, my little advice I'll give you is, as a young man who wants the good and best for Ghana and Ghanaians, is no parliamentarian should be appointed as a cabinet minister. Well, that's what our constitution says. 50% must come from parliament. But if it becomes necessary to appoint a particular parliamentarian as cabinet minister, he or she must resign the position as a parliamentarian. This makes sense more than witch hunting. Spare us, Emmanuel Teku in Ho. Bonti Benjamin and Chairman Bwako says the law enforcement agencies should deal with all those involved in the SSNIT 147 million software procurement fraud without fear or favor. Pensioners are bread, you say. Hashtag. Good morning, TV3. You people are doing a good job. Congratulations. You see, one thing which is disturbing Ghanaians is the fact that if they give work to contractors, they use I don't get it. Well, they say they do Jinahoji, and 3 days later you see that the road begins to get damaged. Okay, Ransford talks it from there. You think that, well, their down road is in a bad state and it must be dealt with. Good morning, Johnny. Dumso is really back. Daniel in Koligono is saying. And finally, good morning. Many Ghanaians who voted against President Mahama have regretted. Since this clueless Akufo-Addo came to power, everyday corruption, and instead of fighting gargantuan corruption in his government, he rather wants to legalize homosexuality. No former minister took double salary. The CID boss is more MPP. I say Christian Abeka. I thank you very much. Right. Grateful.
Johnny, grateful once again. And gentlemen, let's wrap up our conversation then. Richard, I'm grateful for your time with us. You speak on infrastructure. Are you aware that there have been frequent lights out these days?
I think what I know of is that the ECG is undergoing some routine maintenance across certain parts of the capital, and I think it is better. And the good thing about this is that these things are announced that within this area, this particular transformer will be faced, because you see, we are headed into the raining season, so they need to be ready. And cables that are not positioned very well, they need to also take care of it. They are making sure that trees that are gotten themselves entangled with the cables, they are pruning them. So there are a lot of activities happening. But in terms of power, we have in excess, and we are currently even selling to La Côte d'Ivoire.
So it could just be technical for
and Togo. So we don't have issues with power generation.
Okay. Seydou, I'm grateful for your time with us too.
Yes, right. I think under the MPP, they see Dumso as technical problems, but under the NDC, it was a human problem. On Saturday and Sunday, the northern region will sleep in darkness. That is the announcement we have gotten. We'll sleep in darkness. And this is consistent. It has been consistent for the past 1 month, where you just lie down, your lights will go off for like 4 or 5 times. Technical problems doesn't exist that way. Please, I beg you. You see, anytime you talk, I'll just be watching you.
Okay, we are wrapping up.
I'll just be watching you, jotting down some points to clear the mischief you might have caused. I beg you. I said.
They're having power reduced for them. Which are getting constant supply of power.
Tell me one megawatt of power you have added since you came into power. So even if Ghanaians are enjoying power today, give credit to John Dramani Mahama government. And you see, Ghana First demonstration is moving to Northern Region in Tamale on Saturday.
Okay, really?
And God willing,
Saturday?
Yes, this Saturday. And we want to make sure we push this government. Indeed, that illegal document they call an agreement, that is not signed by any minister or whoever in Parliament. We want it to be revoked so that Ghana will have our freedom.
I'm grateful.
And I wish all they are conducting the branch elections in Tolon constituency on Friday. And I wish my constituents all the best. And at the right time, when all is done, I will come out and start our campaign towards removing this super incompetent government.
It's a member of the NDC from the Tolon constituency, Seydou Fita. Richard Asante Yeboah speaks for government on infrastructure. I'm grateful, gentlemen, for your time. You sent in your comment. We're grateful.